Let's get our models into our mod and let's get it working. Hello everyone, this is Ali Reza. Welcome to the Mentor Code Lab. This is the last video of basic Blockbench usage. You already created your model, you textured it, you exported the JSON file, you took the JSON file in your mod structure, but it will not show up. So in this video, I will walk you through the steps that you need to do so that you get your model inside your mod and inside the game. For the blocks, it's really easy. The block will be any normal vanilla block. As you see, my fluid tanks are just normal block sitting on my mod blocks. And inside the init right now, I'm using my own library. You can follow the main tutorial series for that. But you can register it basically with any helper method that you have. The critical thing is that the name of the registry should be identical to the name of the JSON. And then the blocks for the copying of the settings should somewhat resemble the material that you use here. For example, for wood, I'm using oak planks, but for netherite, I'm using netherite block. For item groups, is really simple. Choose any item group that you want and add them there. Again, you can follow the tutorial series. You have everything covered for item groups there. Then you add them to your loot table to drop them. When you break them, you add them to your language file. You add them to your block tags, both for pickaxe mineable if you want to. And if you have any custom tag, in my case, I have the fluid tanks, you add them to the fluid tanks tag there. And then for the model provider, this is the critical part. You need to register them as register simple state. This is important. If you register them as cube, all, or singleton, you will have problems. For singleton, you can do that, but then you will have to find the proper modeling and texturing for that. But simple state tells the system that, hey, I'm covering the UV, so don't worry about it. Just generate the JSON file for the model state. Then on recipes, I have a to-do here, but you will create your shaped recipes or any other way that you want to generate your tanks. Finally, the client file. I didn't implement it because I want to talk about this one. If you have a solid model without any transparency, you don't need to do anything here. In our case, we have 4 sites that has window in them. Now, I can't use cutout. Cutout means that part of the model doesn't provide any texture and should be totally ignored and be transparent, and there is nothing behind it. For example, a door that has some shape being cut inside it. But for glasses, you will use translucent. Now, our model will have glass, so I will use translucent here. And to cover that, I want to show you how I cheat and make things work fast. I just copy the whole thing from model provider and I will paste it down below. Now, it's totally wrong. However, all I need to do is copy this first section and hit the control key double time, and on the second time, hold it down and then use up and down arrows. Holding down the control key, you can go the right side and select this whole section. Alternatively, you can click, hold the Alt key, and as you go, you select the whole thing and hit paste. And then again, I need to take this part. Now this one, you need to add them manually, each one, but it's really fast. So as you see, I'm just finishing the whole thing and that's it. Now I'm done with it. Now the problem is that I have an extra pair of parentheses that I copy pasted accidentally. So I just remove them. And finally, my client side is ready. Now, because I did add things to loot table, language provider, block tag provider, model provider, and recipe provider, we need to run our datagen. So let's run it. If your datagen is run and finished and says that it's successful, then you are sure that you don't have any errors anywhere, at least errors like typos or missing something or using something that shouldn't be used, things like that. As my datagen is running, I will talk about the future that you can go forward with Blockbench. There is entity model that you can use. Entity models normally are being used for mobs. However, if you have multi-block machines, and we will talk about multi-block machines in main series maybe, but in library series for sure, you can't have JSON files for them. Anything that is beyond 16 by 16 by 16 will fail to produce a JSON. It will produce a JSON, but it will fail on running the game. It will tell you that it can't parse the JSON file. In those scenarios, when a block should occupy more than one block's space, for example, you have an oven that should be 3 block by 3 block by 3 block, you will use entity models. Now, entity models are totally different compared to what we covered so far. For entity models, you won't export a JSON file, but you will export a Java file. And for exporting the Java file, you will use the yarn mapping, and you will make sure that you are not flipping the Y, things like that. It's much more advanced compared to what you learned so far for Blockbench. And then you will import that JSON file inside your mod, and then available plugin for exporting entity model is not up to date. So you need to tweak the JSON file, remove parts and rename parts, and completely refactor the code so that it can be read by your mod. However, you can't simply say that, hey, I want a model and get done with it. You need to have a renderer and you need to cover rendering it manually. Fail to run data generation for mod, and it says item must not be Minecraft Air illegal state exception. Okay, you know what I missed? It's exactly inside loot table provider. Problem is that it's saying that the item must not be air. I thought it was related to recipes, but it has another meaning. When you go into model providers, you need to be aware that items are not being covered here. And also, in our case, the mod block items are different compared to mod blocks, because my library, the G block register, if I take a look at that, is just calling this dot register, and as you see, it's just registering the block. It's not registering the block item. And that's the point. When you are not registering the block item, Minecraft says that, hey, I'm not sure what item I should drop. So if you look, when we went into the loot table provider, we got the error. And the thing that guides me that it's not recipe error is that when I'm reading this error, the top line, it says Fabric Loot Table Provider Implementation. It means that it's not even getting farther than the loot table. So it can't find an item for a loot table. Okay, guess what? I didn't provide block items for my fluid tanks. Okay, not a big deal because it's really easy. You just need this part. So again, I will go back to any one of these that are easier to copy. Maybe the block tag would be the easiest one. I will copy the whole thing. Coming back here and immediately after, for example, gems, it doesn't matter where, I will create a region calling it fluid tanks and end region. I will paste them there. I will use a shift tab so that I can use my trick. I will copy that. I will come and select all of these. I will paste it there, and what's wrong with you now? It is missing semicolons at the end. So what else? Oh yeah, now I need to assign things to them. So here I will say fluid tank copper equals to that. I will select all of that. This one is diamond, so hitting a D will get the diamond. This is the emerald. This one is the enderite. This one is the gold. This one is the iron. This one is the netherite. This one is obsidian, star, stone, and wood. Now, what is wrong with this? It should be happy now because this overload only accepts a block. Oh, again, I copied an extra parenthesis here and there, so I just removed that parenthesis. Make sure that you do that trick properly. Okay, now that we have the block items covered, hopefully DataGen will be happy and that item cannot be air, will be gone. Take note, if you have a custom register helper method that will register both block and the block item in one go, you don't need this step. But in my case, I divided the solution so that I need to register the block items separately. It was nice. That error showed you that not always the top error message is actually what you think it is. Now, as you see, I may get some error, connection reset or anything else, but the point is that this build is successful. This is the important part. Now, under generated assets, Ultra IO, block estates, I should see generated files for copper fluid tank that says model is this, or diamond fluid tank, or emerald fluid tank, any other thing. Now we are done. Now we can simply run the client and hopefully we should see a properly modeled and transparent fluid tank. Although it doesn't have any fluid storage, it's not rendering the fluid in it, anything related to your mod actually. You can follow the main series. We will cover all of these. But the point is that we should have our Blockbench model working and running and available for us inside the game easily without a problem now. As the game is running and coming up, let me talk about one thing. What if you want animations? Maybe part of a block should be animated or your mob will have some special animation. The thing is that normally in vanilla, we are not covering animations using Blockbench. And that is why you see that people who are using Minecraft are not really going into animating anything inside Blockbench. Also, if you make an animation in Blockbench, taking it back into Minecraft is really hard unless you use a third-party library. The animation in Minecraft is always handled by entity renderers. And in rendering time, we use the matrices of rotating and translating to mimic the behavior of an animation. And if you want anything that is animated, you may want to look around on YouTube for different tutorials and see how you can do that and how you can take those animations into Minecraft. However, normally you would use Blockbench for your block models and block entity models. And if you are using it for mobs, that's a totally different story. You should talk with some people that are familiar with mobs and has decent knowledge of animating a mob and taking that animation back into the game. When it comes to blocks, block entities and complex blocks are always using the block entity renderers and animating the blocks inside renderers. Okay, the game is up. Let's go into a test world. And the very first thing, our item should be up here. Now, the texture is not perfect because I think we had done something derpy for the inventory section of Blockbench exporting. But if I take it and if I put it in the world, the model is totally working. So if I put it there, you see that it's transparent. It is showing the internal section and we can see all the sides. And if I go up and put another one there, you can see the bottom side is there. Now the particles are not correct because the JSON file that we exported is not covering the particles. If you want to, you can just open any vanilla block model that is there. For example, if we go into external library, net Minecraft merged, inside assets, Minecraft, let's see, bit for example, here we go. It uses particle, okay? So if you want to, you can have a particle like that, and inside our JSONs right now, we are not covering that particle entry, okay? Actually, we have it. What I forgot is to take this and paste it there. And it's an easy thing to reload it inside the game. Right now, I will show you that one too. And that would be the end for this video. However, I'm not sure if it will respect the UV layout or it will try to load the whole atlas. I hope it's not loading the atlas file because if it does that, it will ruin everything. Okay, how can we load it without rerunning the game? You just build the project. However, in my case, this project folder is not your standard mod folder structure. So I need to build it using the build task under the Gradle instead of build menu on top, or even if you have a button somewhere. And when the build is finished, take note, the game is still running. It's not a problem there. And I need to fix this guy. And let me show you where that thing is. And this is why you should save your models. So let's open the model file for the wood. If I come to display, I went all the way to frame and ground, head, first person. Now the frame and then GUI. I totally ignored this one, and God, you are in the way now. I totally ignored this one. And this is exactly what you see inside our GUI right now. So if you want to, you can just rotate it somewhat and then, for example, like this, and use sliders to make them smaller, like 0.55 should be okay. On all directions, 0.55. 0.55, and then play with the rotations again so that it looks properly in your opinion, whatever it is. I'm not sure. For example, something like this maybe, and then you just get these values back in your JSON file. Okay, the thing is that when you finished building your mod, you go back into the game, you hit F3T, and it will reload the textures, and now the particle should be okay, as you see. And thankfully, I think it's respecting the UV. And if it's not, actually, I think it's not, but it doesn't matter because it's so tiny and fast that people can't identify anything. Let me talk about one thing special related to Blockbench model. That rotation in the GUI is not a solid value. It depends on your model. For example, the solar panel, although I will change this because I want a flat thing, not an angled panel. But this model, this particular model, looks very beautiful in the GUI, although the rotations are not the solid block rotations. Also, the animal feeder. This one, if I rotate it like this, may look nice, may look interesting, but I think it's okay because it's not a solid block. And when you are not a solid block, you have more freedom compared to when you are solid block. When you are not a complete full height block, or you have a custom model that is not comparable to a fluid block, then you have more freedom. But in these three cases, if I connect these two corners and these two corners, I will end up with a solid block. So they should eventually become closer to any solid block that you see. And other than this, right now, we have our model. It's done, it's finished. The rest is just handling the fluid inside your block entity, rendering the fluid in the world using custom block entity renderers, other mod concepts that are irrelevant to Blockbench. At the end, I should mention that I may not deal with entity models for a long time, and you may not have any video for the entity model on my channel for a long time because I don't want to have multi-blocks in my mod. I'm totally happy with what I have right now. But if you want to get familiar with the entity models, I highly suggest that you search this guy, Turti-Wurti. This guy on YouTube has lots of videos and streams actually. Take note of the streams that he is doing recently. Although the streams are long and he agrees to this, he yaps a lot, but the content is a gold mine. And he is dealing with multi-block all the time. I mean, it's so good that I even downloaded few of his videos on streams, and I can open one of them and show you what he's dealing with. Give me a second. Let's hope that I choose a proper one. Okay, this is what he's dealing with. This is a multi-block, and this is using entity block. Okay, and as you see, they have animations. That one at the back end is a wind turbine that has animation. This guy will have a motor that is animated and goes down and up. So if you are interested in using multi-blocks or entity blocks, I highly suggest Turti-Wurti's channel and sit back and watch 2 to 3 hours of mod development, yapping, chatting, talking, and it's really nice because in my channel, you will see that, for example, I will develop the pipe network using his code as a base. And you will see that, okay, it's easy, it's understandable, it's going on smoothly. However, when you go into his channel, you will see that he's pulling his hair to make things work. And it was not as easy as you thought. You will see a real life of a mod developer there. And sometimes he is doing Blockbench things, so it's even better for those who are interested in Blockbench. I highly recommend his channel, and that is it for the Blockbench series. I hope you enjoyed this series, this mini series, and I think I covered most of the things that you need to know as the basics for the entity model. Honestly, the modeling is the same, the texturing is the same, only when you start exporting and importing inside Minecraft is different. And unless you are familiar with block entity custom renderers, I highly suggest that you should stay away from entity models, because without having block entity renderers, you can't use entity blocks from Blockbench in Minecraft. If you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on that bell so that when I publish a new video, you will get informed. Have fun, everyone. Bye.